This is Caring for Kids on News Talk 760 WJR, presented by the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation. And here's your host, President and CEO of the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation, Larry Burns.
Hello and welcome to Caring for Kids. I'm your host, Larry Burns, President and CEO at the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation. We've got a great show planned tonight discussing issues that impact children locally, regionally, and nationally. Each one of our guests this evening is heavily involved in children's health and health care. First, we'll have Reverend Larry Simmons, Executive Director of the Brightmoor Alliance. Then Dr. Jack Baker, retired ophthalmologist from Children's Hospital of Michigan and a board of trustees of the foundation. And he'll talk about some great things that he's involved in. And Dr. Roy Wilson, President of Wayne State University, and Lisa Nuszkowski, Founder and Executive Director of MOGO. It's all coming up next on Caring for Kids, right here on the great voice of the Great Lakes, News Talk 760 WJR.
It's Caring for Kids with Larry Burns.
Reverend Larry Simmons is born and raised in Detroit. He left Michigan to attend Langston University in Oklahoma, where he became involved in political activism before returning to Detroit. Upon his return, Reverend Simmons went to work for the Urban League, eventually volunteering for the campaign of Coleman Young, and then serving as his executive assistant and campaign manager for 10 years. In 1999, Reverend Simmons became the pastor of Barber AME Church, where he has emerged as a true community leader. Reverend Simmons, welcome to Caring for Kids.
Thank you so much, fellow Larry.
Yes, we got to stick together, us Larrys. And I mentioned offline that I had an opportunity to hear you up in Mackinac at the policy conference.
Yes.
And I said, we got to have you on the show.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
We have so many things going on. And so for our listeners who are not quite as familiar as I am with the Brightmoor Alliance, can you share with us a little bit about how that organization, how it is, how it started, and,
Sure.
and we'll go from there.
Brightmoor is an area which was founded at the turn of the 20th century as a bedroom community for Ford Motor Company. And in keeping with the times, it was a segregated community. It was targeting Appalachian whites. And when the laws changed in the mid-'50s, the community began to transform. Following 1967, there was a big shift in the community, and so now it's predominantly black, but also there is a significant number of whites who continue to live in the neighborhood. It's very poor. Brightmoor has 12 census tracts that make it up. Those 12 of the 12, 7 of them have poverty rates of 60% or more of the people are under 125% of poverty.
It's under that. Yeah,
meaning they're living, families of 4 are living on about $35,000 a year. The homes were built very quickly at the turn of the century, and they're starting to wear out. And the newer homes are in trouble because they're being occupied by seniors and passed on to younger children.
How are the things with the Alliance and with the children of the community?
Well, the Alliance started in 2000 in response to the changing demographics of the community. And in 2008, we became an incorporated organization, so it became Brightmoor Alliance Incorporated, and we were one of the 6 good neighborhoods that Skillman started.
Right.
I became the executive director in 2013, following Kirk Mays, who's now the executive director of Forgotten Harvest. Mm-hmm. And building on the legacy that Kirk left behind, the Alliance, in transitioning out of the Skillman Good Neighborhoods Initiative, has identified early childhood as a key period of life to overcome the problem of poverty. We believe that the only way to get out of poverty and stay is to have 21st century marketable skills. That nobody's going to give you enough money for you to be middle class. You've got to earn your way to the middle class. And that means you've got to have skills that you can market that someone would be willing to pay middle class wages for. Right. So that's kind of our focus. We start that vision with early childhood and just proceed throughout life with our various community members to help them identify plans to
Great.
do that.
And we're talking with Reverend Larry Simmons from the Brightmoor Alliance. And you mentioned something that's very relevant to our Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation. We're a foundation that is expanding our reach into the community. And you mentioned trying to create pathways for individuals, children out of poverty.
Yes.
In many ways, our foundation can impact more lives through initiatives like yours than disease-related initiatives. And so we look to partner with you. We look to partner with other organizations like yours, and we look to partner with educational institutions, because a great way out of pathway out of poverty is through school.
Yes.
And they stay in school because of people like you and the things you're doing. So we have a lot that we can do together in the future. And to date, what do you think? What are you most proud of in the accomplishments for the Alliance?
There's several things. One is we've stabilized. We had a huge loss of population over a period of about 25 years. Over the past 10 years, we've actually helped to stabilize that population loss. And in 4 of the 12 census tracts, we've actually begun to have people move in to the neighborhood. Okay. Brightmoor is a very inventive kind of place. But probably the single biggest thing I'm proud of right now is the Alliance formed a coalition with 4 early child care providers, 6 of the 7 schools in our community, 3 churches, to create a STEAM science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics program that now engages children from 3 years old to 17, and we now have 200 young people who work all year to build these various STEAM projects and then have a big demonstration day in early summer.
That's outstanding.
And having children that young programming these dash and dot robots is an amazing thing to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they pick it up so fast.
Right. And I know, because I saw you on Mackinac on this panel I mentioned, and Mayor Duggan was on there, and you have a nice relationship with the mayor and his and his staff and his and so is that making a difference in what you're trying to do? It
absolutely makes a difference. I had the privilege of working with. I worked for Coleman Young, and I worked with Mike Duggan. And I will tell you that in both cases, although they are very different people, both of them are very attentive to the numbers. Recently, about a year ago, the Free Press identified that Coleman Young had been the most fiscally responsible mayor in the past 50 years, I think, or 60 years that they were using as prior to Mayor Duggan's time, which was a surprise to many, but not to those of us who knew how he ran the organization. Mike is very much the same way. Mike Duggan pays attention to the details. He pays attention to the numbers. And because at the top he pays attention, all the people below him pay attention. As well. Yeah. The other thing that Mayor Duggan does, he comes to the community and he listens to what the community has to say. I'll give you a perfect example. The Fisher Foundation agreed to donate $500,000 to the city to help with blight clearance in Brightmoor. Now, most government administrations would look upon that windfall. They would pick an area for reasons that might be good, might not be good, and then they would do what they do. That's not what the Duggan administration did. They came to the community, they came to the Brightmoor Alliance, to schools, to community organizations, and said, where should we do this? And so the community selected the area around Gomper School. So we need to create a safe path for children to get to and from school. And so a corridor from Evergreen to Burt Road was selected, and from Burt Road, from Schoolcraft to Finkel, and they used this money to tear down houses and clear non-structural blight. But he did this in response and in partnership with the community.
He listened. Versus went in and said, "This is what we're going to do,"
which is a rare quality.
It is. It is for a mayor or for somebody at his level. Well, Reverend, thank you very much for all you're doing. I want to stay in touch with you, and as I mentioned earlier, we need to do some things together, particularly for the kids of Brightmoor.
Well, I think your foundation and the pioneering work that you're doing is critical. And I would just say I'm learning as I'm going. about the impact of trauma and its physiological effects on young children. And the work that you all are doing in this is essential for us to create this seamless path from conception to college for
that pathway to
prosperity.
Life. Yeah,
yes,
wonderful. Well, thank you. That's Reverend Larry Simmons, Executive Director of the Brightmoor Alliance. And stay tuned, because when we come back, Dr. Jack Baker is going to be with us. And that's when Caring for Kids continues, right here on the great voice of the Great Lakes, News Talk 760 WJR.
Welcome back to Caring for Kids on WJR, presented by the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation.
Dr. Jack Baker is a retired ophthalmologist from Children's Hospital of Michigan. He has served as Chief of Ophthalmology at the Children's Hospital of Michigan from 1985 to 2004. Dr. Baker has been named in the Best Doctors in America, the Best Doctors in the Midwest, and Top Docs in Our magazine. He was a founding member of the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation Board of Trustees and has served as chairman of the foundation board in 2011. At Children's Hospital of Michigan, I do know that he is indeed a legend. So last week, one of the things that you oversee on the foundation is our Grants and Compliance Committee. Last week, we announced formally that the foundation has approved $4.7 million this year so far in grants, and one of those grants is to fund a program in collaboration with the Jewish Fund to provide eyeglasses to children in need in the Hamtramck public school system. And as an ophthalmologist, as a foundation trustee, as chairman of the grants committee, and what are your thoughts about how a grant like this can impact kids?
Well, thank you for asking that, Larry. As an ophthalmologist, I was very pleased to see this grant come before our Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation Grants Committee. Obviously, I've been interested in helping children see better all my life. And if we look at doing this in a school situation, you will tend to learn better if you can see better, if you can't see the board, if you can't read. I like this program when they presented it. First of all, the children are screened. So they're identifying children that may have problems. Our state of Michigan has one of the longest and most effective vision screening program that's done through our local health departments. And so these children will be screened, and if they seem to have an eye or a vision problem, then they will then have an exam, and this grant will cover the exams and any glasses that they need. So it's a win for the children to get the correction visually that they need to perform the best that they can, and also an effective use of funds because we're leveraging the state screening to really identify and only examine the children that seem to have a need.
Absolutely. So that's that win-win-win, 1 + 1 = 3 equation. And we're talking with Dr. Jack Baker, who is a retired leader ophthalmologist from the Children's Hospital of Michigan and a current board member of our foundation. And this Jewish Fund partnership is actually a follow-up to another partnership. They provided funds in Hamtramck for some health screening as well as some immunization, I believe.
Correct. They've been involved, as has been the staff of Children's Hospital, supported by philanthropy through the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation. We run a very significant health clinic. The foundation supports it, and some of the staff at Children's Hospital manage it. And the more that we can leverage and partner with different groups interested in this area of providing optimum health care for children, the better off for all of us. And I'm happy to see that the foundation not only is continuing to support the excellent internal education and good medical research done at Children's Hospital of Michigan, but also leveraging those talented people to have a real effect out in the community to help the health of our children.
Absolutely. And our biggest and best partner is Children's Hospital of Michigan, and it's really nice to see the Jewish Fund helping us as well and helping the kids. And has anything regarding vision screening in the last couple decades changed? And how exactly do these kids get screened?
Well, thank you for asking this question. That's been a center part of my time commitment for the last several years. In the past, all of the people that are adults can remember probably having their vision tested maybe with which way to the fingers on the E point or looking at pictures and then eventually asking letters. Well, the problem is that we would like to identify children that have amblyopia potential problems early in life. And by amblyopia, we're talking about what some people refer to as lazy eye. Doesn't mean the eyes are drifting. In fact, the problem is that many children have perfectly straight eyes, so the parents and the doctors don't see any obvious problems. But one eye may be more significantly nearsighted or farsighted than the other, and that significantly nearsighted or farsighted eye never develops good vision. And if we don't detect those children, hopefully before the age of 5, and institute good therapy, then those children have poor vision in one eye for the rest of their lives, and that affects their occupation that they can go for.
We're talking with Dr. Jack Baker from Children's Hospital, Michigan, leading ophthalmologist. And I know you're involved with the Children's Eye Foundation as a board member. What you just mentioned, is that some of the work or efforts that they've been involved in as well?
Yes, it is. The Children's Eye Foundation was started in the late 70s to support education of ophthalmologists that wanted to spend additional training time to specialize in pediatric ophthalmology. And over the years, we continue to support research and some training, but we have evolved into more of a public service organization. And over the last year, our real emphasis has been a program called Screen Eyes Early, or our an acronym for it is SEE. And what we're doing is we're encouraging parents to make sure that their children get visually screened by instrument vision screening starting at age 1. They should ask their family physicians, their pediatricians about it, and also if they go to a health clinic, do it at that particular spot. So we've been working with the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Association for Pediatric Ophthalmology, and Strabismus to push this initiative of Screen Eyes Early using instrument-based vision screening.
Got it. Great advice for mom and dad that are listening, or grandparents. And so thank you for that. And then one final question, Dr. Baker. And you've been involved as chairman and many years on the Children's Hospital Michigan Foundation, and I joined the organization in January, and I just wanted to get your thoughts about how you see the foundation evolving in the community and beyond over the next 3 to 5, 10 years.
Well, I'm very, very encouraged, first of all, with your leadership coming on board and helping us move forward. Also, as we have evolved from primarily a supporter of the education, research, and community benefits that the hospital has been engaged in for literally 125 years, I see ourselves anyway continuing to have a heavy commitment to that educational and research process at the Children's Hospital of Michigan, but also extending more out into the community where we can partner with the staff at Children's, other organizations, to really become a significant force in the health of the children in Michigan, and of course particularly southeastern Michigan. I think a great example of that was last year when the tragedy of the Flint water crisis came up. The health department chairman, head of the Detroit Health Department, came to the foundation and said, "We would like to test the water in the schools of Detroit. Can you help us?" And literally within 48 hours, we approved the grant, and that allowed the city of Detroit to test the water in all of the public as well as charter schools in the city of Detroit. Did detect some problems, so they were able to proactively work on those rather than waiting until children were more affected.
Perfect example, and the Hamtramck School program is an example too of
yes, it is
partnering with Children's and partnering with other foundations. So, well, thank you for all that you do, all you've done, and you continue to amaze me on your energy, and I appreciate it very, very much.
Well, Larry, it's a pleasure being with you, and it's just been my passion, and I'm so happy that I can continue to do this.
And say hello to your partner in life, Susie Baker, as well. She's been there along with you, helping the children of this community for a long, long time.
Absolutely. She is truly my supporter, enabler, and as well as best friend.
Right. Awesome. So we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Larry.
You're welcome. Thank you. That was Dr. Jack Baker. He's a retired ophthalmologist leader from Children's Hospital of Michigan and a current Board of Trustees member of our foundation. And speaking of the foundation, we're going to have one of our great partners coming up next. That's Dr. Roy Wilson, who's the president of Wayne State University, a great partner of the foundation. It's When Caring for Kids continues, right here on the great voice of the Great Lakes, News Talk 760 WJR.
Welcome back to Caring for Kids on WJR. Presented by the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation. Once again, here's Larry Burns.
Dr. Roy Wilson is president of Wayne State University. He is the 12th president. He's been president since 2013. Prior to this position, Dr. Wilson served as deputy director of strategic scientific planning and program coordination at the National Institute on Minority Health and Health Disparities of the National Institutes of Health. Before that, Dr. Wilson was chancellor of the University of Colorado at Denver and its Health Science Center in Aurora, president of the Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center in Lubbock, and dean of the medical school and vice president of Creighton University in Omaha, Nebraska. President Wilson was elected a lifetime member of the National Academy of Medicine in 2003. He received his undergraduate degree from Allegheny College and an MS in epidemiology from UCLA and an MD from Harvard Medical School. President Wilson is also the chair-elect of the Association of American Medical Colleges, otherwise known as the AAMC, which is the leading organization in medical education and I think the world. So pretty impressive. Dr. Wilson, welcome.
Well, thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
And so one of the things I wanted to make sure our listeners knew that since 2010, the foundation has partnered with Wayne State University on more than 150 projects, totaling more than $12 million. Most of this has been on research-focused things, and just so people have a sense, coming from a president of a major research university, why is an academic affiliation so important to medical research in a place like Children's Hospital?
Well, I'm obviously very biased, but I believe that the best health care is when you are able to combine the clinical expertise of healthcare providers and the latest research findings. The marriage of the two is really what makes really special care. And I think having an institution like Children's Hospital, which is a premier hospital for the care of children, partnered up in an academic way, makes them just that much stronger in terms of being able to attract the best talent, the most up-to-date treatment, and all of that comes through having a research culture where the latest treatments, the latest clinical trials are always, it's just part of the what you do.
And one of the things that concerns me right now is that it was noted that the White House may be considering cuts to the National Institutes of Health, NIH as they call it, and how might a cut like this impact a research university like Wayne State?
Yeah, so, I'm hoping it's a moot point at this point because they did propose a drastic cut to NIH, and a lot of that cut was through decreasing what's called F&A costs, facilities and administration costs. Typically, research universities get somewhere around 50% or so in F&A costs, and this is it's absolutely necessary in order to perform the research. It's a common misnomer that research makes money. Well, it actually costs money, and so universities that engage in a lot of research subsidize the cost of doing that research. President Trump was in his budget. He was considering, or he recommended that be cut to 10%, as opposed to the usual F&A costs. Well, that would be a devastating a cut, and an institution like ours that equates to about $14 million a year that we would have to find so that we can continue to research. And the likelihood is that we will probably not do as much research just because of the cost. Now, luckily, Congress, in its wisdom, has been very supportive of NIH over the years and continues to be supportive. And they did not back either a general cut to NIH budget nor specifically the cut in the F&A, and they were very specific about the fact that the F&A costs needed to be maintained in its current form.
Great. Well, more to come, and hopefully that won't be nearly what we thought it was a while ago. And
Right.
And so one of the other things that you brought with you, I think, is the concept. We're talking to Dr. Roy Wilson, president of Wayne State University, is this race that is now known as the Barradur. Do all right there?
Very good.
Tell our listeners a little bit about the race and Wayne State's involvement.
The race is in Detroit. Not a small part of it is to raise money for scholarships for needy kids.
And I think it's called something called High, helping individuals go higher.
Well, part of the proceeds go to the High program, which helps precariously housed students. It's a national problem, and we certainly have homeless students at Wayne State. And so this is a program that basically benefits homeless students by finding them housing and other short-term financial needs. So part of the proceeds go there, and part of it go to other programs that cater to scholarship needs of needy students.
Excellent. And so the name, Barradur, is interesting. So what does it mean?
So Barradur is a French term, and it means warrior. Now, that's significant because obviously Wayne State are the Warriors.
I like it. Now it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. But also, and this is what's even more interesting, it's also a cycling term.
Okay.
And it's a cycling term that denotes those who are adventuresome, that will strike out on their own, go against the peloton, and work in a way that is. Well, like I said, basically adventuresome and on their own against all odds. And so that's kind of the way our Wayne State Warriors are. They're adventuresome. They strike out on their own, and they're not necessarily with the pack. And so I thought that it was actually Matt Lockwood is the one that came up with the name. But I thought it was a great name. It's held.
And so the event's been very successful. Matt, I know, is out getting sponsorship. The foundation is a sponsor this year. Registration's up from the first 2 years, and so things are looking great for this race. And so if people want to know more about it, they can go to the website. I'm going to spell it, BAROUDEUR.wayne.edu. We'll put that on our website as well for Caring for Kids, and then we'll hopefully get you some more people and let everybody know how it went. So thank you for being a wonderful partner of our foundation, and we look forward to many more years of that. And good luck with the race. Are you, Matt, going to be in the race?
I'll be helping direct it.
He's helping direct it. Okay. But President Wilson, you'll be in the race.
I will. And I should say there are different options. There are a 25-mile option, a 62-mile, and a 100-mile option. And we don't advertise it, but there's also a 50-mile option. So it's, for all riding levels, we have something for everyone.
Okay. And the date?
August 19th, Saturday.
August 19th. All right. So we'll promote it even more between now and then. So, Dr. Wilson, thank you very much for being on Caring for Kids.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate it. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Lisa Nuszkowski. She's the founder and executive director of MOGO. You'll learn more about that when Caring for Kids returns right here. Great voice of the Great Lakes, News Talk 760 WJR.
It's Caring for Kids with Larry Burns.
Lisa Nuszkowski, I do that okay?
Perfect.
All right. Is founder and executive director of MOGO. Lisa is a board member of the Tour Detroit and Southwest Housing Solutions. Lisa worked on urban mobility initiatives, real estate development projects, and public safety enhancements for Wayne State University for their Office of Economic Development. She was recognized as one of Crain's Detroit Businesses 40 Under 40 in 2016. Which is a major accomplishment, and a member of the Detroit Regional Chamber's Leadership Detroit Class 34. She received a bachelor's degree from my alma mater, which I'm proud of, Central Michigan University, Go Chips, and a master's degree from the University of Michigan. So welcome to Caring for Kids.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And had lunch today at Selden Standard, and right there were the lovely bikes.
That's right.
And so that looked great. And so can you tell our listeners about MOGO?
Yeah, so MoGo is Detroit's first public bike share system. We launched at the end of May with 430 bikes at 43 stations located in 10 neighborhoods throughout Detroit. And MoGo is a great way to get around town. So, we're a very car-centric town here in the Motor City. Surprising. And so we're really trying to get people to think a little bit differently about how they get around. So MoGo works really well for those shorter, quicker trips. So you think about anything that's, a couple of miles or less. How often do we all get in our cars to drive a mile down the street and look for parking, potentially get a ticket, and all the costs to go with owning and operating a car. And so we think that MoGo can help replace some of those trips and get people around more quickly and efficiently.
And how, tell us a little bit about your relationship with Wayne State. When I was interviewing Dr. Wilson, and Matt Lockwood was in the studio and mentioned that there was a relationship with Wayne State and MoGo.
Yeah, MoGo wouldn't be here without Wayne State University. So there were a few community members back in 2012 that had approached the university about starting a bike share system. And the university, I think, really had the foresight to see this could be a real amenity that could add a lot of value to not only the university, but the broader community as well. And so I joined the team at the beginning of 2012 and started working on this and some other projects. And they really gave, a lot of support for this and growing it, and then eventually spinning it out to, we're now an affiliate of the Downtown Detroit Partnership as a nonprofit organization. But yeah, we wouldn't be here without their early support.
And so tell us the logistics of the bike. So I want to go and meet somebody for lunch. So I go to the bike, and so what is the cost and how does that all work?
Yeah, so you can purchase a pass either at a kiosk, or you can go onto our website and purchase a pass there. We also use what's called the Transit app, and you can purchase a daily pass there. So with any one of the pass options, you can get a daily, monthly, annual, or what we really like is our Access Pass. So it's a $5 annual pass for any individual receiving state benefits. But with any one of those passes, you can get an unlimited number of free 30-minute trips. So this is about point A to point B transportation. So oftentimes people think about hopping on a bike and sort of taking a leisurely ride, which you can do that, but this is really more focused on getting you from point A to point B. So let's say we're here at the Fisher Building and we want to go down to the DMC. Yeah. We're actually going to be installing a station there in the next week or so here at the corner of John R. and Canfield. And so you can check out a bike at Second and Grand here in New Center, ride the bike down to the DMC, check it into the station there, go do what you need to do.
So that transaction's over, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And let's say that trip took you 18 minutes. You're not paying anything for that trip. So it's really flexible that you don't have to return it where you got it from. You just have to return it to any one of the 43 stations.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So we've been reading a lot about the Q line and its first few months operating and what people have learned. And so I thought I'd ask you since you're up and running and you've been doing so successfully, is there things you've adjusted or things that you've learned?
Yeah, I think, we're now at the point where people see the bikes out on the streets and they're intrigued and they want to use it. We've got some really great early ridership numbers. And I think for us going forward now, it's really focusing on getting the word out about things like our Access Pass program. You can also pay for passes with cash, which I think is an important option, and getting an understanding of how the 30-minute, per trip kind of situation works. And so we're really working a lot on our messaging and reaching out to people and making sure that they have a safe, enjoyable time using the service.
Are the bikes going to be seasonal? So will they be in storage during the winter months or no?
We are a 365, 24/7 system. So as I like to say, if you want to ride at 3 o'clock on Christmas morning, you're welcome to do so. Really, we have a year-round system because we really believe this is a transportation option, and we know transportation needs don't end when the weather gets colder outside. So we want to make sure it's available for people to use throughout the year.
Excellent. And you're also committed, I know, to grow Detroit's young talent. And that, can you tell us what your 4 interns might learn? I think you have 4 interns this summer.
That's right. Yep. They just started with us this week. And so we've got 4 young people who are working with us, spending about half of their time in our office, sort of on the nonprofit side of things. And then the other half of their time with our operator, Shift Transit. So they're based out of Milwaukee Junction. And they are the ones where if you see the vans driving around town, rebalancing the bikes. Yeah. So, pulling bikes from a full station or adding bikes to an empty station. So they're learning all about the mechanics of how bike share works, how to rebalance, providing customer service, marketing and community outreach, fundraising, and just sort of understanding how a nonprofit executes a service like this. So we're really excited to have them on board.
Yes, and we have our very own Grow Detroit Young's talent right here, Lexus, sitting down here taking photos.
Terrific.
She's a recent graduate of the Oakland University and doing a great job. This is her Second week?
Yep.
Second week. Yeah, so
That's great.
it's a great program, and our foundation actually was not only a supporter by hiring Alexis, but also by giving a grant to Mayor Duggan and his team for that. So,
thank you for your support of that, because we're certainly benefiting from having them on board on their second day. They've also already provided us with some really great feedback that we're then using to help in our marketing and outreach.
Yes, I learned a long time ago working at a university that you can learn an awful lot from young people.
Imagine that.
Yes, imagine that. So I'm constantly learning from them each and every day. And so where do you see the MOGO program might be in 3-5 years in the city of Detroit or beyond?
Yeah, so I see us expanding. We've been really encouraged by the number of communities, both within Detroit and in the region, that have reached out to us to learn more about how we launched Bike Share here and how they might have Bike Share in their communities. And so we're having several meetings over the next couple of months here to talk with different communities about what that looks like. So I'd really love to grow the program here in the region. And then I think too, just having Detroit be known, not just as the motor city, but also the mobility city,
right.
And really,
Like
being more intentional about how we're getting people around. I think we've got the opportunity with these extremely wide streets that were built to accommodate a population of nearly 2 million people. We have the chance to allocate that space so that we can accommodate people walking, people biking, people using public transit, people driving. And so I think that Detroit has a real opportunity to be a leader, and I hope that we're at the forefront of that conversation.
Well, with your leadership, I have no doubt that will happen. So what was your major at CMU?
I majored in political science in undergrad, and then I have a Master of Public Policy from grad school.
All right. So you've gone in that direction in public policy and things of that nature.
Exactly.
Well, I love CMU, so I always have to mention that when people are guests on the show that they treated me well. So, well, Lisa, thank you very much for not only being on the show, but for what you're doing as an entrepreneur, as one of the 40 under 40 in our great city. And I look forward to getting on one of the bikes, I think, next week. We're going to take a photo to promote this interview, so I'm going to be on one of the bikes. So,
let us know if there's anything that we can do, like any support that you need from us.
Keep me from falling down.
We're happy to help in whatever way we can.
Well, thank you very much. That was Lisa Nuszkowski. She's the founder and executive director and leader of MOGO. All right, thank you for joining us on Caring for Kids. I'm your host, Larry Burns, president and CEO of the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation. The foundation is proud to sponsor this program, and for more information on Caring for Kids, you can visit us at www.chmfoundation.org/Caring for Kids. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at CFK Radio Show, or follow me at Larry Burns. That's easy. And most importantly, join us again next time at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, August 22nd, for more discussion about the health and wellness of children on Caring for Kids, here on the great voice of the Great Lakes, News Talk 760 WJR.
Caring for Kids on WJR has been presented by the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation.